There's different types of problems in our industry. So if you just miss something on bid day, say you leave the painting out or something like that, there's no recourse for that. On this project, it's a little bit different. So the other type of issue we run into is what we call an unforeseen condition. And those are things that are just out of your control. You know, if we show up and we start digging in the ground and we hit coal or granite or you name it, obviously our issues are not that drastic at UAB, but we've run into some pretty substantial stuff with the subgrade conditions. And those are things that you can get some help from the owner, because at the end of the day, it's the owner's property.
Well, anytime you get around remodeling and demolition, you always have more trouble. You can start from scratch and build one better than you can add on to one's a lot harder.
It's a remodel, and they're always, you know, more headache. You know, you run into everything they ran into, water in the ground, shoring, they had to shore the walls up before they could, you know, so it's just a whole lot more headache.
This project's a little unique in that it ties into an existing structure that has a basement garage. So we tore the building down and the roof structure is gone and the first floor slab is gone. We're down in the basement, which now has no lid. It's open to the sky.
We had to over excavate in the basement to install some micro piles, and the micro piles would be what the new structure will be sitting on.
So basically, as we were digging, water was coming up from the ground and we had to fight that. So we wound up actually just digging our micro piles and throwing pumps in there while dropping concrete in. That's how we had to roll with it.
We can't even really pump the water out of the holes. What we're having to do is daisy chain pumps. So we'll pump this hole dry and it pumps it into the next hole, and then we'll pump that one down into another one, and then that one's close enough to the end of the basement where we can pump it outside. So it gets difficult. Some of these took 2 and 3 weeks.
Oh, that set us back pretty good. I'll say definitely about a month for sure.
The plans show there's an existing wall in the basement. You have this giant wall, and behind it you have a soil load. And at the top of the wall, you had beams and a slab structure from the existing building. Well, we tore all that out. So that wall is going to want to fall over because it doesn't have that slab and beam structure they're holding. It's wanting to tip over. So we knew we had to shore the top of that wall, and it was in the plans and told us we had to shore that top of that wall. But we also are taking out the basement slab, the one at the bottom. Well, the problem was if you took that basement slab out, the way this existing wall was constructed, the bottom of the wall would kick out. And typically the way we build them now, you don't have to worry about that.
So basically we had to shore up the retaining wall because the engineers thought that if we put a lot of pressure on that retaining wall that it would kick out and damage the steam lines.
But it's kind of like having a couple of tons of TNT if it was to bust.
It got complicated very quickly. So we had to come up with a whole new system of bridging and structural steel in between both the old columns and the new columns, and it complicated things a lot. And, you know, at the end of the day, it cost a little bit of money, but it was the time.
Had to make sure it would work out and keep everybody safe at the same time. That's our biggest concern, because if we're not doing our job right and we don't go home, well, hell, we're failing.
Even though the owner understands, hey, nobody knew this was going on, nobody anticipated any of this stuff, and we understand what you went through, they don't have 60 days to give us. The problem with the unforeseen condition delay is, you know, everybody understands how we got here, but no one feels responsible. So what you end up having to do is you have to start paying people for acceleration. And, you know, that's part of the thing that we're dealing with now. You know, you got this cost to try and catch these projects up, and you got to figure out who's going to be responsible for it and can they stomach that. So what we had on that first floor was 2 inches of elevation difference from one end of the building to the other. So we had an issue where everybody started getting prepared for this concrete pour and getting all the formwork set for the first level deck. And all of a sudden we realized, hey man, this deck's traveling. It's up and down, all the way down 2 inches, which is a lot. So what we had planned on doing initially was we were gonna pour the west half of the deck, and then a couple of weeks later we were gonna pour the east side. So what it turned into was we're not gonna make the west side because everything's gotta be lowered. We're gonna pour it all at one time with the east to try and prevent a total loss of time in the schedule.
It's 2 a.m. and we are ready to pour some concrete.
Oh, it's a big deal. I've been on this project for approximately 8 months, and we hadn't done anything but demo and get ready for this. So it's a big deal to have this taking place right now.
So that pour is a whole big lot, just to get it going, get it rolling. Because now it ought to click. Week by week, they ought to be poured.
More than just the deadline, kind of getting morale back in the team, because we've been kicked down a lot, and getting the morale back is a big thing, because once the whole team has some morale, people put in extra work, the days don't seem as long, everybody comes together as a team, really better.
That first floor pour was a huge victory for our team. We've been fighting that for weeks. That kind of represented a turning point at the job where we're pretty much free of a lot of the existing conditions we're tied to. So it was a big victory.
Oh yeah, big victory. But you know, we got a lot of more victories to come on this project. But yes, this is the first victory of the war, I would say.
Signing out for today. Peace.